Spring came slowly to Maycomb. The chill of winter faded, and the days grew long again, warm enough for the children to run barefoot down the dusty roads. Scout and Jem were growing older, and so were their questions about the world around them. Every day, it seemed, Scout learned something new, not from her teachers at school, but from watching her father, Atticus Finch. Atticus was unlike most men in Maycomb. While others raised their voices to be heard, Atticus believed that real strength came from calmness. He didn't shout, didn't boast, and never used his fists. His weapon was reason, and his armor was patience. To Scout and Jem, that sometimes made him seem dull. Other fathers hunted, played poker, or worked on cars. Atticus just read books and went to court. Scout often wished her father was more like the other men, until life showed her what real courage looked like. It began with a small event that carried a large lesson. One afternoon, Scout got into a fight with a classmate named Cecil Jacobs. The boy had shouted on the playground that Atticus defended black people. Scout didn't understand why that was an insult, but she hated hearing anyone say her father's name in a mean way. So she punched Cecil right in the face. That night, Atticus sat her down. He didn't scold her harshly. Instead, he explained that words can't harm a man who knows he's doing right. He told her he was defending a man named Tom Robinson, who had been accused of a terrible crime. A man who deserved fairness and justice, the same as anyone else. He told Scout not to fight, no matter what people said about him. Scout promised to try, but she didn't know how hard that promise would be to keep. As the weeks went by, whispers about Atticus spread through Maycomb. Some people respected what he was doing, others didn't. In a small town like theirs, defending a black man against a white accusation was seen as foolish, even dangerous. But Atticus didn't back down. He believed that doing the right thing wasn't about popularity, it was about conscience. One morning, the town was buzzing with news. A dog had been spotted wandering the street, acting strange. Sheriff Tate arrived, rifle in hand, but he hesitated to take the shot. The dog was mad, rabid, and could attack anyone. Atticus was called to help. Scout and Jem watched from a distance as their father stood in the middle of the road, calm and steady, lifted the rifle and fired one single shot. The dog dropped instantly. For a moment, the street was silent. Then everyone looked at Atticus differently, including Scout and Jem. They had never known their father could shoot a gun. Miss Mowdy, their neighbor, smiled and told them that Atticus was once the best marksman in Maycomb County. They asked why he never told them, and she said quietly, "People who are humble about their talents are the ones who deserve them most." That day, Scout and Jem learned something about courage. It wasn't about showing off strength. It was about controlling it. Atticus could have bragged, but he didn't. He believed that courage was doing what was right, even when no one noticed. Scout's world at school grew tougher. Children repeated things they had heard their parents say, cruel things about Atticus and his case. She wanted to fight back every time, but she remembered his words, "Hold your head high and keep those fists down." It wasn't easy. Each insult felt like a stone thrown at her pride. But slowly she began to understand what her father meant. Strength wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was quiet. Jem was changing too. He was getting older, more thoughtful. He began to see how unfair people could be, how quick they were to judge others. The mystery of Boo Radley had once been the center of their lives, but now their focus was shifting to something bigger, the world beyond their street, the world of adults and justice and pain. At night, Scout would sometimes crawl into Atticus's lap, resting her head on his arm while he read his newspaper. She'd ask if he was scared about the trial. Atticus would smile faintly and say, "A little, but the truth doesn't change because people don't like it." Scout didn't fully understand, but she liked how sure he sounded. Soon the trial of Tom Robinson would come to define everything. It would test Maycomb's values, Jem's innocence, and Scout's courage. But for now, Atticus kept teaching in his quiet way. He taught them through small acts. When he spoke kindly to rude neighbors, when he defended Calpurnia, their black housekeeper, against gossip, when he treated everyone, rich or poor, with the same respect. To Scout, those lessons didn't seem grand at first. They were just small things her father did because that's who he was. But later she would realize that those small things built the foundation of everything she believed in. Maycomb wasn't ready for Atticus Finch. It was a town that liked to think it was fair, but deep down it was divided by invisible lines. Lines of color, class, and ignorance. Atticus knew that, yet he stood where no one else would. One evening, as Scout lay in bed, she heard the Mockingbird singing outside her window. She thought of what her father had told her once. "It's a sin to kill a mockingbird. They don't do anything but make music for us to enjoy." She didn't know then that those words carried a deeper meaning, that mockingbirds were symbols of innocence, of people who never harmed anyone but were hurt by others. The days ahead would teach her exactly what that meant. As spring turned to summer again, Maycomb's peace felt fragile. The talk of the trial grew louder, the glances sharper. She felt it in the air, a tension she couldn't name, like a storm building far away. But inside their home, Atticus remained steady, reading quietly in his chair, offering his children the same calm wisdom as always. In a world where everyone else was shouting, he was the one voice that never wavered. And though Scout didn't know it yet, the lessons she learned from her father during those long, slow days would stay with her forever. Lessons about fairness, dignity, and the courage to stand alone when the world is wrong.